Hey, I'm Peter Lundstrom, Chair of the Environment Committee, and today is February 11th, and we can get started with a really exciting agenda, just a short agenda, 2 items, but a good one. But before we do that, we have some minutes from January 28th. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. That takes us to our very first item on the non-consent agenda today, which is 2025-51, the adoption of the facility plan for Crow River. WRRF and Sanitary Sewer. This is project number 809900. Welcome to the committee. Welcome back to the committee, both of you.
Yes, well, thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Councilmember Lundstrom and council members. As Peter mentioned, we are here today to recommend the approval of the Crow River Water Resource Recovery Facility and Sanitary Sewer Facility Plan. As you'll recall, we were here back in October and we outlined the contents of the facility plan and you recommended a public hearing, which we had, and we're here today to cover what we heard in the public hearing and answer any final questions that you might have before asking you to formally recommend approval of the facility plan, which will then go to the MPCA and PFA for inclusion in the intended use plan and allow us to get into this year's funding cycle. Go. First off, I want to thank Chair Lundstrom for coming out to the city of Rogers with us last month, I believe it was. We had a great public hearing out at the rec center with the youth hockey going on in the background, and I think we had about 15 community members show up, as well as 2 council members from the city of Rogers. So it was a nice event. I think we had some good and lively conversation, and there's not, at least the sense that I got, that there wasn't any substantive opposition to our plan. So it was nice to get out, and it was a nice event. And thank you, Chair Lundstrom, for helping us moderate. This afternoon, I'm here with my counterpart, Ryan Piner from Interceptor Engineering, and I think I introduced myself, but I'm Mark Lundgren from Plant Engineering, and we've been working on this facility plan for, I guess, about the last 5 years. So this afternoon, we'll kind of just do a quick refresher on the background of the project, as well as the location of the project, as well as the intended service area and some of the rationale behind it. Then jump into the facility planning process, talk a little bit about what we've done in terms of community outreach, and then dive into the comments and questions that we got during the public hearing before asking for your formal approval or recommending approval of the facility plan. So just to talk a little bit, kind of bring us back to what we're talking about here today. Met Council Environmental Services has been planning for the Crow River facility since about 2005. We've included the notion of this facility both in the 2030 and 2040 Water Resources Policy Plan. And that led up to the council acquiring the existing Rogers wastewater treatment facility in 2019. We worked in collaboration with the city of Rogers to come up with an acquisition agreement, which would facilitate us doing the orderly transition of flow from the existing plant to the new Crow River plant. So in 2020, we formally took control of the operations and ownership of the facility, and we've been operating it ever since. During that same time period, we began working on the facility plan, in collaboration with all of our partners in operations, maintenance, as well as planning, and with support and collaboration with the various communities involved in the service area. And that has kind of led us here to today, where we are hoping to have the facility plan approved that will allow us to jump into design, which will lead to construction, and then meet the commitments that we have in the acquisition agreement, which was 2 dates that we would initiate operations of the new Crow River Water Resource Recovery Facility by the end of 2030, and then a year later we would decommission the existing Rogers wastewater treatment facility and return the bulk of that property to the city, with a small portion of that parcel being retained for a lift station to transfer flow to the new facility. So that's a bit of the background. Here's kind of the project location map and just a quick project overview. Obviously, we will need to build a sewer pipe between the new and existing plant. That's where Interceptor Engineering has worked closely with the city to determine the most advantageous pipeline route, and you see that route there on the screen. And that will transfer the flow between the new site and the existing site. The new site was purchased in 2016 and is, I think, ideal for our purposes, well outside of the center of the city where the current facility is located, with sufficient land area to build out to the full capacity that's planned for the site. So kind of as a high-level planning level cost for capital, we are looking at this project at about $182 million. Oop, wrong direction. And so kind of a final background slide in terms of the drivers. Why are we building this regional facility? The first one being strong regional growth. We saw Rogers be the fifth fastest growing city between 2000 and 2010 in the whole of the United States. Dayton and Corcoran are also growing rapidly, and that has been reflected in their comprehensive plans for many years. So really this is kind of a burgeoning area of the Twin Cities, and we saw the need to accommodate that regional growth in an orderly manner. The second major driver is that the Elm Creek Interceptor, it's a major artery down to the Metro Water Resource Recovery Facility, and that currently some of the flow of this area goes through that interceptor. We know through planning studies that interceptors have done that the Elm Creek Interceptor is currently oversubscribed. So building this regional facility and redirecting some flow away from the Elm Creek Interceptor will allow us to save capacity in the interceptor for urban core growth. So those are really the two major drivers. Initially, we are planning for a daily flow of about 2.8 MGD. That'll be the initial construction. When the kind of we flip the switch and send flow, it'll be about 1.3, but the initial build will be about 2.8. And then our ultimate planned capacity for this facility is 16.5 MGD, and that encompasses the full growth plans for the three cities in their current round of comprehensive planning. We don't anticipate getting there anytime soon, but we believe that that site will be able to handle that region. So just to kind of then jump into the facility plan process, and specifically the public hearing process. When we were back here in October, you authorized the public hearing. Then since that, we held 2 events out in Rogers, which I mentioned before. We had an open house on the 5th of December, which was more of an informal gathering where we were able to kind of interact more freely with the community, answer questions. And we had a good group of staff out there to help field kind of general interest questions. And then the event on January 8th is more of a formal occasion where we recorded all comments and questions. And then in your packet, you'll see that all of the questions that were asked at the public hearing are in there, as well as the answers that are given. And those will become part of the facility plan formally and be submitted to the MPCA and PFA as part of our formal submittal. So we are here today asking for approval of the facility plan, which will go in front of the full council on the 26th and allow us to meet the March 7th deadline for submittal of the full facility plan to the PFA. So here's the best picture we got from the public hearing. Again, we had about 15 members of the community and a couple of council members. It was a nice event, and I think went well. So I will jump in now. Again, you should have every question and answer that was asked and given, but I think I pulled out about 4 of the kind of themes of the questions to just kind of run through what our answers were with you. So the first question that we were given by the community was, why did you decide to go to the Crow River and not the Mississippi River? And so we actually did a fair amount of work during the facility planning process on this question. We looked at we developed a business case evaluation, which looked at both the cost, and we also submitted to the MPCA the preliminary effluent limit request, which had them develop preliminary effluent limits at the 2 discharge points. And that PEL, it's called, came back and showed no difference in the effluent limits between going to the Crow and going to the Mississippi. And the reason that is that the effluent limits on that, kind of that general stretch of river are controlled by the Lake Pepin TMDL. And so in the eyes of the PCA, there's really no difference between the 2 discharge points. And so then the kind of second reason why we chose is obviously cost. We have a site that is literally 300 feet to the Crow River versus it's about a 9-mile stretch of pipe that we would have to put in. Also the topography does not help us. We would have we figured out we would have to put in 3 different lift stations along that pipeline route to get out to the Mississippi. And so that being a significant disruption to the city as well as cost to the community, we decided to keep the discharge of the Crow. Second kind of main set of questions was, what are the health impacts of the new plant and what are the environmental impacts of the new plant? And generally our answer to this always is that the Crow, as all of our facilities do, will meet all environmental regulations to the highest standard that our regulators put to us. Obviously, the Crow will be monitored by the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, which is administered locally by the MPCA. Furthermore, this new facility will be replacing an old facility, and part of how we will meet this next round of permitted regulations is by building a new facility with more stringent pollution control equipment, specifically for phosphorus, copper, and the last one is eluding me. Ryan doesn't know, but there are 3. It'll come to me in a second, but there are 3 new pollutants that are included in our new discharge permit that the new facility will allow us to meet those limits. And then the next question was how are the banks of the river going to change after the new plant is installed? So our answer here is that the banks of the river aren't going to really change with the installation of the new facility. There will be some increase in flow at a small portion of the river. Basically, what we're doing is taking an existing flow, which is 2 miles downstream, and moving it 2 miles upstream. And so, that portion of the river will have some what's called low channel flow erosion, just because there'll be some increased base flow. But really, the river banks are degraded due to large storm events that have nothing to do with the base flow that we'll be contributing to. And so then the next question is kind of along the same lines. How will the new plant change the flow of the Crow River? And then, as I said, the initial flow really won't change it much at all. You know, that 2-mile stretch will see some increase in base flow, but it's really only 9% at a low flow period. So at the lowest possible flow over a 7-day period, it'll see a 9% increase, and that will just, again, be the base flow. So we don't anticipate a significant impact of the river flow from the initial plant build. And then the final kind of set of questions was around the effluent pipe. They asked if the effluent pipe will be buried, will the land on top of the effluent pipe be usable, and then will the effluent pipe discharge under the river? And, you know, I think this is a very reasonable concern. Obviously, we will be burying the pipe. It will discharge under the river. And then in terms of access over the pipe, we will maintain a maintenance corridor, but there's really no limitation on what can be done on top of the pipe other than we wouldn't want permanent structures to be built. So we would have emergency access should we need to maintain the effluent pipe to the river. And so that's kind of the summary of the comments that we received and the answers that were given. Again, if you have any specific questions about any of the other questions and answers, I'd be happy to give them to you, but they're contained in the packet. And then I guess at this point, we would propose the action that the Metropolitan Council adopt the facility plan for the Crow River Water Resource Recovery Facility and Sanitary Sewer as per the attached resolution. And then with that, we are happy to take any questions that you might have.
Any questions? That was a great meeting. And as you can see, committee members, the questions that the people asked were very well informed and just really solid questions. And it was good for me to be out there because it reminded me of just what a hopping place Rogers is right now. I mean, like you alluded to, like you said, it's one of the fastest growing places in the last decade or two. Mm-hmm. And that's going to continue in the years ahead. And you can't grow without treating the wastewater. Yeah. And so this will enable sustainable economic growth in the Northwest part of the region. Other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Now the work begins. Holy cow. I remember 2019, I was out in Rogers.
Yeah.
When we got the keys to the old place, or the current place, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And I remember them saying, like, hey, 2030, we're going to have this new thing up and running. And in 2019, that just seemed like so far away.
Yeah,
and now it's kind of like,
that seems
where are the shovels?
Now.
We got to start digging here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a very exciting move.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks to you both.
And the answer to my question that I asked myself earlier is copper, chloride, and phosphorus.
Copper, chloride, phosphorus.
Thank you.
There you go. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That takes us to our second item for the afternoon, 2025-52. Same week, approval of application process for equity-focused water efficiency grant pilot program. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair and committee members for having us today. Going to be talking a bit about the Water Efficiency Grant Program and more specifically the Equity Pilot Program that we are hoping to launch this year. So just as a bit of background, I guess before we jump into that, my name is Henry, and I know you know Jen very well from ushering through the water policy plan. But we have been here a handful of times over the last year and change to talk about the 2024 to 2026 Water Efficiency Grant Program. So around this time last year, we came to you and presented our plan to carve out $400,000 from our $1.5 million appropriation of clean water funds to fund an equity pilot program. So just kind of jumping in a little bit, our goal for this program is similar to the overall program goal. In this case, it's to support technical and behavioral changes in underserved and disproportionately burdened communities that improve municipal water use efficiency in the 7-county metro area. And so with this program, we see a pretty similar structure to the traditional water efficiency grant program, which is a pass-through program where we fund the replacement of water-using devices with high-efficiency alternatives, usually through the WaterSense program and the Energy Star program, using those labels to determine eligibility of different devices.
So the total appropriation that we got approved for the Clean Water Fund for water efficiency overall was $1.5 million, as Henry mentioned. We did carve out $400,000 for this equity-focused program, and I just wanted to make sure that we were tying this back to the policy, because why would I come here and not talk about policy? And so within the water policy plan, we did have specific action items that did say, try to incorporate equity into our grant programs, try to increase the opportunity of our programs to wider swaths of residents in the region. And so I think this is our first stab at trying to make that policy implemented and actionable moving forward. Again, we know that the policy hasn't officially been adopted. Hopefully that will happen tomorrow. But Henry and I are leaning into good luck and in the process that hopefully this will be living into the policy that we will adopt tomorrow, all things going well. Oh, and I also should say, sorry, this is the part I did forget. It wasn't just Henry and I up here creating this program. We wanted to make sure, living into the spirit of our equity policy, that we did co-create this program with communities within the metro. And so we held conversations with communities we surveyed the communities in the summer just to get an idea of what ideas they were thinking of. We held conversations with communities in November, and then we took that conversation that we had and worked on a proposed design that we sent back out to those communities to make sure that it was in alignment with what they thought that we were working together for. So while Henry is the lead of this and deserves a lot of the credit for this, he is not the only person who has been putting effort and thought into this. We made sure that we did contact our customer communities that would be participating in this program as well.
Yeah, and not only that, it was a cross-group and cross-divisional effort to develop the draft guidelines and application form that we're planning on sending out. We had folks from wastewater and planning and community programs and from the Livable Communities Unit sitting in on meetings where we were going through, what this program could look like. So anticipating sending out for applications in the next week or so. One thing that we kept in mind from presenting to you back in January and May of last year is that it was critical to have this program be eligible to any city that's interested in applying. And so our approach to this is similar to the traditional program, in that any municipality that's served by a public water supply system is eligible to apply. The grants are going to be up to $100,000, and it will be a competitive program. So as we review applications, we will score based on what the equity focus that the city is proposing, how easy is it for a resident to be part of this program, what is the estimated water savings, how many people do they see participating in the program, and then lastly, given this is the second half of this appropriation period, how easy is it for the city to implement this project? Given that this is a pilot program, we want to see how things go, and want to make it as easy as possible for cities to participate. So We've removed required match from the municipalities, and also we've removed the cost requirement for residents. So this is something where we're hoping these pass-through funds can go directly to residents, and they get a break on efficiency and cost of water and things like that. Unlike the traditional water efficiency program, which covers a wide range of devices, we decided for this pilot to focus on toilet replacement exclusively. Reasoning behind that was, as I mentioned, kind of making this an easy program for cities to participate in, making it easy on our end as well. And we also had completed a pilot project with St. Paul Regional Water Services where they did toilet replacements in areas of concentrated poverty in the city. And so we have an existing project that we can kind of look to as guidance for how this one might work. As I mentioned, things are moving pretty quickly here. We're hoping to get this program launched and cities involved as soon as possible. So as you saw at the beginning, we're hoping for a same week move to the council for approval, and then with the goal of opening applications to cities next week, not on February 17th because we'll be off. And then giving cities about a month and a half, month and change to develop their applications, ask questions if they need, send it in to us. We'll then take some time to review applications, score them, probably bring back some of the same team that helped develop this program. And then we will come back to you and tell you about the projects that we got from cities and what we think they might look like, and then get launching by summer. So we're happy to answer questions, but the action today that we're proposing is that the Metropolitan Council approves business item 2025-52, same week, on the process for this 2025 to 2026 equity-focused water efficiency grant pilot program, and authorize us to advertise the availability of this funding and solicit applications. Thanks.
Any questions? Please, Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the original grant program started out as that it was for places that used groundwater. This one sounds like it's for everybody. Am I correct in that?
You are correct.
And the 100,000 per city limit means basically half of it could go to Minneapolis and St. Paul. That seems kind of high.
So, I'm sorry.
Assuming that they have stellar applications.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Councilmember Wolf. Depending on this is the part that is always when you're putting out a pilot program, that you're not sure how many folks will be participating. I'm hoping because of the level of involvement that we got with the co-creation of it, that we will see many of those cities come back to apply. But we wanted to make sure that if worst case, only 4 cities applied, that we would be able to distribute the funds to all of the applicants. And so when we were working with the Office of General Counsel, we made sure to be pretty clear that we said grants could be up to 100,000, but that doesn't necessarily say that we will fully maximize. I think it depends on how much participation or applications we get to help adjust what that total amount would be in the end. The other part of this, which has been really eye-opening, I've been doing a lot of back-of-the-envelope calculations, is just how many toilets can you buy? And like what does that mean for scale of implementation, and how much money do we need to really make an impact in a community? And surprisingly, that number was larger than I thought it would be. And so that is where I think by having the safety net of saying up to 100,000, that gives us some leeway, not knowing how many people are going to participate and how can we make the most impact.
Okay.
There's a difference between the cost of a toilet and then the cost of installation too.
Yes.
Like, holy cow. it could be $100 toilet, but installation, now it's an $800-900 project. Yeah, Councilmember Carter?
Was I you?
I had a question, it's kind of along that line. What's the projected average award per person? I know it's a filter down kind of, community's going to get the award, but I know you probably did some numbers.
Mr. Chair, committee member, that is a great question. I would say off the top of my head, I could not make a guess on per person award. I think one thing that is dependent is that depending on how a city designs their program, the sort of level of support that a resident might be getting might be different. So the way that we are setting this up is that plumbing costs and installation costs are an eligible cost. And so in some cases, it might be that a resident chooses to hire a plumber on their own versus a city orchestrating that, those logistics. And so we can certainly do some calculations, but I think before we receive applications from cities, it's hard to know exactly what that cost breakdown would end up looking like.
Mr. Chair and Councilmember, if I may, I think this is part of the part where we wanted to make sure we were providing opportunity for flexibility for communities to create the program that makes the most sense so that they can help with that benefit to the residents. The St. Paul program that Henry mentioned, they did decide that for the St. Paul Regional Water Supply that it was more cost effective to just contract one plumber and work with that individual to go out and install these toilets. And they ended up, by making that choice, potentially saving or opening up more opportunity for residents to participate because they saved money by having a contract with one organization or one plumber. We know that is viable. We have a case study that we are promoting to show that that is the case, but I also understand that not all cities want to take on that additional cost for this program. And that they could maybe see by having residents pay for the plumber themselves, maybe they could again expand to more residents. So this is where we're nervously excited to see how local implementation, how are they going to figure it out? Like we have 5 or 6 puzzle pieces there and we're just curious to see how they end up putting them together.
Councilmember.
None of the money for the grant is going for any municipalities' administrative costs, correct?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember, yes, that's correct. So it's all passed through. The eligible costs are the device and the installation of the device.
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if a community did facilitate the installation part, would that give them more points in the ease of implementation points?
Mr. Chair, committee member, I would say so. I mean, we haven't ironed out that specific detail, but I think generally speaking, if that process is easier for the resident, then that would be the case. Yeah.
I mean, installing a toilet is not rocket science.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Wolf.
I've done it.
I have too.
I will say, I also have done it, and while it is not rocket science, it also, as having to go through 3 different wax rings, it was harder than I thought it would be.
You gotta seal it.
And the guy at the hardware store told me to buy 3, and I was like, I can do it in 2. And when I had to come back for the 3rd one, it was embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one that I had to do was somehow ingrained in the concrete of my basement. And I'm like, okay, I've done other ones, but this one is above my pay scale. So I had to hire someone to do that one. Other questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to ask, is this first time that this program implemented?
Mr. Chair, committee member, yeah, this will be the first time this is implemented. We have this pilot project that we did with St. Paul, but this kind of broader scale and inviting cities to apply more broadly will be the first time, and so we're hoping it's a success and it's popular, and that we can, kind of see what the successes and failures were with it, and then move forward from there.
Please.
If it is successful, it will be continued, or it's just one-time pilot program?
Mr. Chair, committee member, I think the hope would be to continue it, absolutely. But we have not received any specific guidance or details about that, so I think we'd be hoping for that, though. Yeah.
Thank you.
Talk to your legislator. Right. That's the message there. Before I forget, one method to get the word out is the Ramsey County League of Local Governments gets together monthly, and they have an initiative that is underway to target energy efficiency at manufactured home parks within Ramsey County. There's like 15, 16 manufactured home parks, and they may be amenable to expanding the scope to water efficiency as well. And so encouraging those Ramsey County, primarily suburbs, to participate. And I can help with an introduction to those people.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We are excited to see, again, like we were saying, how this program rolls out so that we can, I'm already in my head tweaking as to how to perhaps make it better, and it hasn't even launched yet, so I'm excited to see the data points and how to respond to it.
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is going to be directed towards low-income homeowners and people who pay for water as part of their rent, right? Or
So,
how does that
do you
work?
want me to take? Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Wolf, we have, as part of the conversations with the local communities, that was one of the sticky wickets. Like, what does equity-focused mean? How do we help communities target these individuals? And the first request that we had from the communities was like, can you please provide us some baseline data so that we know how to target our programs? And so I'm really excited. Henry showed me this afternoon, but we have a map in which we have used multiple layers from our place-based equity data set that our friends in CD have created to identify different communities and different
Census tract.
thank you, census tract parcel or census tract layers to help within the region to identify these areas. I will let Henry speak to the specific layers, but the caveat I will add to this is we know that what we pick, no matter what we pick for data sources, it might not reflect what is happening in the local community, because at the local level, locals do know more about what is happening for their residents' needs than we do at the regional scale. And so we did provide we said, here, these are the resources, and if your community has these areas, then yes, please do participate. Or if you can please explain how equity could be addressed in your community, please include that in the application. So we sort of did a yes and. We provided the resources, and we also provided an opportunity for the communities to share their needs as well.
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not particularly concerned about census tracts. I'm more concerned about individual circumstances, like rather than improve the bottom line for some slumlord.
Yeah.
that it actually helps people.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Councilmember Wolf, I actually, I've been meaning to call Scott Anderson, who is our friend in Bloomington, to check something, because this has been one of those conversations that we've had with multiple water supply utility directors and other staff members of how do you find that renter, this mythical person who exists out there, but this renter who pays their own water bills, so that if we engage this in the program, we know that we won't be just offsetting the water bill for a landlord who will potentially raise rent, like the next cycle. And so I think, like through noodling, I actually had this aha moment with Henry, and I was like, I need to call Scott to check to see if this is possible. And so the city of St. Paul did do it the old school way, and they went knocking on doors to ask residents if they paid water bills, and that's how they contacted their participants with the program. So again, we'll offer that as the case study, but I'm hoping that after I check with my idea with Scott, we might have other avenues for cities to try and identify and target. Again, we did, as part of this mapping exercise, we do have an address finder. So if a resident does enter their address into the map, they can see if they apply, or similarly, a resident or a community staff member could put in the address to see if they would apply. But it's not going to get to the actual financial aspect that I think to the level that you would like.
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, cities should know, are they billing the landowner or are they billing individual tenants?
That's based on my logic.
But you could also look at like older public housing,
Yep.
stuff like that. Or things that have, a long-term affordability agreement as potential. I just don't want it to go to a business rather than a person that needs the help.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Wolf, thank you for sharing these concerns, because this is actually where we started in the process. And that's why we pulled in Maya from Housing to provide some of that information of how does affordable housing, how does that even work? And so we got some education on how affordable housing works within cities and how we can best maximize this information that we as the council planners engage with across the agency, but not necessarily from our subject matter expertise. And so it's been a really interesting project.
Great questions. We'll see where this goes. I'm sure it'll be an iterative process. Hopefully there will be more money coming from the legislature, and this will be the first of many. You're looking for a motion, I imagine.
Yes, sir.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Nay. Carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the end of our agenda. Any information from our general manager?
None today. She will return for the next Environment Committee meeting, and she will also be at the council meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
For that auspicious day.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.